Hello from Halifax. This is Jo with Jo to the World Creations, and today we're going to be making my triangle shawl crochet pattern. This is a very easy crochet shawl pattern, and we are going to get right to the video tutorial. All of the details for this pattern, such as the exact sizing, the materials used, and all the written instructions are available for free on my website, or you can purchase the ad-free print-ready PDF, and there are links to both in the description below this video. All right, let's get started. Before we get going on the actual pattern, as you can see in the pictures, I've attached tassels to both ends of the shawl. And I recommend that you make your tassels first. If you're going to make tassels and attach them, it's completely optional. But if you are, I recommend you make the tassels first and then just place them aside because the ends of the skein can get quite curly. So if you make them first, this ensures that the strands for your tassels will be nice and straight. You can use whatever method you'd like to make your tassels. I'm going to show you step by step how I made mine at the end of this video, so feel free to skip ahead and watch that part, make your tassels, place them aside, and then start the pattern. But for this video, we're going to get right to making the shawl, and then at the end I'll show you how to make the tassels. And one other note before we get started, I ran out of the color yarn that I was using to make the shawl, so I'm going to be using the same brand of yarn that I used, just in a different color for this video. To start, we are going to make a slip knot. So we're going to make a loop, pull our end through the loop, and pull tight. Place our loop on our hook, and once again, pull tight. Now we are going to chain 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. For row 1, we are going to work in the 4th chain from the hook. So that's the 1st chain, 2nd chain, 3rd chain, and the 4th chain. So it's the last chain. And into that chain, we are going to make 3 double crochet stitches into the same chain. So working into that 4th chain, we are going to double crochet. That's 1 double crochet, and we're going to make 2 more. Working into the same chain. That's my 2nd double crochet. And then let's do 1 more. And that's 3 double crochet stitches now completed. So for this row, you'll have a total of 3 double crochet stitches. The chains in this pattern never count as stitches. To start row 2, we are going to chain 2, 1, 2, and turn. We're going to be working into the next 3 stitches, into the tops of the double crochet stitches that we made in the previous row, and into this first stitch here, which is the one that's attached to the chain 2, we're going to make 2 double crochet stitches into that first stitch. So 1 and 2. And we're going to repeat that all the way across. So in the next stitch, we're going to make 2 double crochet stitches. 1 and 2 into the same stitch. And in the last stitch, the 3rd stitch, also make 2 double crochet stitches. That's 1 and 2. So at the end of row 2, you'll have a total of 6 double crochet stitches. A reminder to never count the chains as stitches. To start row 3, we are going to chain 1 and turn. Working into the first stitch, the one that's attached to the chain, we're going to single crochet. Then we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and in the very next stitch, make 2 double crochet stitches into that next stitch. That's 1 double crochet, and into the same stitch, make another. In the next stitch, we're going to single crochet. Then we're going to chain 2, and in the next stitch, make 2 double crochet stitches. There's 1. And there's 2. And in the last 2 stitches, the same thing. So in the next stitch, single crochet, chain 2, 1, 2, and in the last stitch, make 2 double crochet stitches into the same stitch. At the end of row 3, you should have a total of 9 stitches, and we're only counting the double crochet stitches and the single crochet stitches, not the chain 2s that we made and not the chains at the beginning. So you'll have a total of 9 stitches. Now we're going to start row 4, and row 4 is what we're going to be doing for the remainder of the pattern. So to start row 4, we are going to chain 1 and turn. Working into the very first stitch, the stitch that's attached to the chain, we're going to single crochet. Then we are going to chain 2, 1, 2, and in the very next stitch, we are going to make 2 double crochet stitches into that next stitch. One, and 2. For the remainder of the row, we are not going to be working into the tops of stitches anymore like we just did at the beginning. We're only going to be working into the chain 2 space, which is the space in between your last or your second double crochet stitch from the previous row and underneath chaining 2, and then in between the single crochet stitch that we made. So that creates a chain 2 space that we're going to work into. So this one right here is our first chain 2 space that we will work into. So into that first chain 2 space, we're going to do everything into that one space. We're going to single crochet into that space, chain 2, 1, 2, and then make 2 double crochet stitches into that same chain 2 space. In here is 1 and then 2. So in every chain 2 space, which as you can see here are my 2 double crochet stitches from the previous row after the second one. So this is the first, here's the second. Then there's a space under the chain 2 that we did from the previous row, and then next to the single crochet, we're going to work into that chain 2 space. And you're going to work into every chain 2 space for the remainder of the row. Now for this row, you only have 2, but as it grows, you're going to have lots more, and you're only going to work into those chain 2 spaces. And in every single chain 2 space, you're going to do the exact same thing. Into the same chain 2 space, single crochet, chain 2, and make 2 double crochet stitches into the same chain 2 space. So that's 1 and that's 2. So as you have more chain 2 spaces, you do the exact same thing. At the very end of your row, you will have one final chain 2 space. And it's exactly the same as all the other ones. It's after your second double crochet stitch underneath the chain 2 and the single crochet, and you're going to work into that just the way you have for all the other chain 2 spaces throughout the row. So into that last chain 2 space, you do exactly the same thing. Single crochet, chain 2, and make 2 double crochet stitches into the same chain 2 space. At the end of the row 4, if you count your stitches, you should have a total of 12 stitches. So for row 5 and on, we're going to do exactly the same thing that we just did. And I'm going to do it one more time. To start each row, we're going to chain 1 and turn, working into the first stitch, single crochet, chain 2, into the next stitch, double crochet, and make another double crochet into the same stitch. Working into the very first chain 2 space, which is right beside everything you've just done. It's right below it, right here. You're going to single crochet, chain 2, and then make 2 double crochet stitches into the same chain 2 space. The next chain 2 space is in between the double crochet, single crochet stitches under the chain 2 here, and you're going to work the exact same thing all the way across into each chain 2 space. And the last chain 2 space, we do the exact same thing. Single crochet, chain 2, make 2 double crochet stitches into the same chain 2 space. So you're going to repeat that row over and over and over again until you reach your desired height for your shawl. For the shawl that I made, I did a total of 55 rows, and that height measured 26 inches. So 55 rows for me was 26 inches of just repeating the exact same row over and over again. That created a width or a length of approximately 60 inches from end to end. So you can keep repeating this row over and over again until you've reached your desired height. And you can end after any number row. Once you've reached your desired height, all that's left to do is fasten off and weave in all your loose ends. Now we are going to make and attach the tassels. First, we're going to take a 5-inch object, such as a thick piece of cardboard or a notebook, or I'm using a CD case, and we're going to wrap our yarn around this 5-inch object 20 times. So this is once, that is twice, 18, 19, 20. Then I can cut the yarn from the skein, leaving about a 3-inch tail. Next, we're going to cut a 16 1-inch strand of yarn from our skein. And we are going to slip it underneath all of the strands of yarn. With equal lengths on either side of this strand, we are going to shimmy it up to the top. While holding the strand at the top in place, we are going to slide the strands off the object. Now we're going to take that strand at the top and tie it in a knot. We're going to tie it once, and then we're going to make another knot just so it's nice and secure. Now I'm going to cut another strand of yarn, and this one's going to be a little longer. It should be approximately 20 inches. Once you have a 20-inch strand, cut that, and we are going to tie this one about 1 inch from the top of the tassel where that knot is. So I'm just going to lay my strand here. We want, again, equal lengths on either side. So I'm just placing my tassel approximately 1 inch, and we are now going to tie this one in a knot. And make sure it's nice and tight. I'm gonna do one more knot. Okay, so now that this is nice and secure, I'm gonna take one end and I am going to wrap it around 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And you can just kind of hold it with one hand. Then we're going to take the other end and also wrap it around 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Now we are going to get our yarn needle out, and we are going to put that last end that we just wrapped around 3 times, we're going to put that into our yarn needle. And we are going to, with our yarn needle, put our needle behind all those wrapped strands that we've just made and go behind it. And then pull through, so that end now just becomes part of the tassel. And the other end is already part of the tassel, so you can't see it anywhere, and we don't need to tuck that behind because the other one hid it for us. So now we can trim our tassel by, the first thing we're going to do is just cut through all the loops. All right. Now to trim the ends, you can just use scissors in your eyes if you would like, and that's a very easy method, but I'm going to show you one other way that you can evenly trim these ends. So this is a cutting mat that I'm using here. So I'm going to put my tassel down and I'm going to try to make the ends as straight as possible. I'm going to be cutting these to be about 3.75 inches, just under 4. Now I'm going to take a piece of painter's tape or masking tape and put them at the bottom so that I can cut the ends perfectly. And this is a rotary cutter, which is a fantastic tool for trimming ends perfectly. So I remove the safety, and now just above the tape, I trim. And just like that, I have perfectly straight ends. When you're ready to attach the tassels, what I did was I used my yarn needle and I went into the chain 2 space on both sides. And I went in there first, and then with my yarn needle, I weaved in the tail from the tassels into the stitches so that they were a little spread out. And then I went through the opening of the tassel head, let's call it, like that. And then I went back into my work and went through the stitches once more. So just tried to weave in the tail, and then as soon as I was done with it, I then put it back into the tassel head and I pushed it through where the strands were wrapped. So I pushed my yarn needle through and then pulled it out so that it actually became part of the tassel. And that also there wasn't another end to weave in. But that's just my personal preference. You're welcome to do it however you'd like. And you'll do that on both sides or wherever you're attaching your tassels. So that concludes the video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed making this pattern and have a wonderful day.